Hi, everyone. Today is Wednesday, November 17th of 2021, and I am here with Rudy for Rudy's Psychic Meetup.
Hey everyone, great to be here. I can't believe it's been, what do we have, a month since the last meetup. It's gone fast, but glad to
Yes,
be back tonight. So, Sam, what's
yes,
going on? You got the Flashback Friday coming up?
I sure do. And what a great entry into talking about a Flashback Friday that is probably, it may hit the regular media.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Which one
guess
was
what I
it?
predicted?
Tell us.
The BC avalanches. Check out the August 16th SamNet. And somebody asked a question and they said what was going to be shattering, like in the shattering headlines,
Yeah.
like earth shattering headlines, what's coming up.
Wow.
And so I talked about, I was pretty sure it was BC. I said that it wasn't going to be a snow avalanche, that it was going to be like a rock avalanche. And I talked about driving on the highway and how I used to drive in BC,
Yeah.
and then you'd see the little pebbles coming down and you'd be kind of like, oh no. And I said
Yeah.
the problem is that boulders will come down and they'll take cars right off of the highway. Right. So I
Wow.
foresaw that. And then I got the number, and it was like, I talked about the Japanese earthquake, and
Uh-huh.
I talked about Beirut. I said Beirut was 6 months from now, because I was trying to think what the 2 and the 3 meant.
Yeah.
Right. And I said, Beirut was 6 months. Japan was 2 to 3 months. I said, I got a 2 and a 3. Oh, what did that mean? Well, it happened 2 months, 30 days, or 2 to 3 months,
Okay.
or 2 months, 30 days, which you can
Yeah.
get a 2 and a 3 out of that. That's when the major avalanche happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Well, this is the grand experiment. So we are trying to figure out how my abilities work.
Yeah.
And you can see I'm very specific about the location,
Mhm.
the event, and you can tell I am struggling to get a timeline, because I really dislike it when these disaster mediums it's almost like they're not real mediums, and it's just like they're trying to be specific but general, and it's kind of like, oh well, no shit, Sherlock, that there's going to be a volcanic eruption in this country that has volcanoes exploding everywhere. But one of the things that I said was that there was going to be volcanoes popping off all over the world. And in some places, there's going to be earthquakes where they don't even normally have earthquakes. You know,
Right.
this
I
was a
think,
very specific thing that I said about this. It's the people on the other side try to be very specific. So if you get someone telling you stuff that kind of like, oh, there's going to be an asteroid and it's going to crash near a major city, it's like, well, you know what? If I had to guess a whole bunch of stuff,
yeah.
I would probably put that on my list, and I'd put maybe a flood somewhere, and I try to guess a place that, maybe has had bad floods in the past. But so this is really interesting, where you guys ask the questions and then I do my best to answer them. And I mean, we've really been pulling out a lot of
Yeah.
gems. It's getting to the point, like between cryptos and predicting the future.
Well,
This
and I
is,
like that our questions come from such a worldwide audience, and they'll ask questions about their countries, and you'll give specific answers. Because,
yeah,
I mean, honestly, as big as the world is, you're right. These general predictions, you could say, "Oh, yeah, that's what I meant. It's over there," and
yeah,
you could apply it to almost anything. So,
right,
which I,
right.
yeah,
And the whole purpose of me doing the grand experiment and being in training with you guys is so that I can prove to people that these types of abilities do exist. Not with everybody, but if they do exist at this level, with it is possible to have this ability. And it's like, well, how do you learn it? How do you know that you have it? And again, as I can look back at these pieces of footage after the fact, then I can, because you can tell I'm looking into something. I'm going, what?
right,
You can tell I'm just kind of, and people are like, oh, what do you see? Do you see it? And it's like, well, it's hard to explain the state of mind that I'm in when I'm actually looking for, because that's a very general question, give us earth shattering headlines. And I like the one that hasn't happened yet, where someone's going to get footage of an alien out walking outside of his ship.
oh, right, right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So remember that one. If it happens, it's on the August 16th SamNet.
Just got to start writing these down as we go along. But
Mm.
thank God you have the search software. But speaking of, predict worldwide predictions, we are going to go back to the Book of Revelations, which is one of the early prediction books that we didn't get to it. I think the first part of October we were going to do this, but I wanted to cover that tonight, and because people I know were interested in that, and go a little bit deeper and see if we can talk about some of the things that are in the Book of Revelation, and see if you can as we read through them, Sam, or give examples, see if you can get an idea of what the author was actually referring to, because these things are, cryptic and symbolic. So I'll state that I am not a Bible scholar. I'm a guy that read this stuff on the internet. So, Sam, hopefully and hopefully if there's people on and I do something or say something incorrect, let us know. But as I read through and kind of researched the book of Revelation, so this is kind of the apocalypse revealed to John the Apostle, right? So he was imprisoned in the island of Patmos, and Jesus came to him. He was given basically these visions of what's to come. And the important thing about this is the book of Revelation was written during a time of Christian persecution by the Roman Empire. And it was it's sort of like, resistance literature, maybe, kind of like QAnon stuff, right? That
Right.
is, here, keep up the good fight. And so a lot of the language is very symbolic. And I think this type of literature got a lot of popularity around, the turn of the century, the 200 BC to 200 AD, that type of time frame. But Sam, let's start off with the intro. Basically, it talks about the revelation of Jesus, that Jesus came to John the Apostle and gave him these visions. So that's the story. But Sam, do you think that John actually was the one who had the visions and wrote this stuff down? Or do you think that some of these things in the Revelations were compiled from multiple people?
I think they were compiled by multiple people.
Okay. All right. Um, yeah, and so let's see. When he was in prison, yeah, so these are like 16 visions. So so interesting, yeah. So people kind of put all these things together. Um, the big in the first vision, John is stated as saying he sees someone come down. He hears a voice that's a loud trumpet that says, "Write down on a scroll what you see and send it to the seven churches." There's a lot of symbology in here with the number seven, and basically he sees a man in white. His hair was white as snow, and his eyes were fiery flames, and his feet were polished brass, and all that. And he said, "Do not be afraid," basically showing himself that Jesus. So that is one question: is, Sam, do you think Jesus actually showed himself to John the Apostle in this way and maybe inspired the book?
Well, actually, it's funny you mentioned that, because the people on the other side showed me and what I was on the other side. And it was pretty friggin' scary, man. I was like, whoa, is that me?
Really?
Yeah. And it would be like that. Like, for a human, it
Uh-huh.
makes us fall to our knees and, realize what we are. And they showed me that. And I thought I was crazy. I was like, okay, I am crazy. All right, I'm crazy. I just started the channel, right? And I was like, that's like grandiose visions, but that's not even in my personality to see myself like that. Because first of
Okay.
all, I'm not a guy, right? Like, that would be more of a guy would see themselves like that, right?
Yeah.
But remember, there's no male or female on the other side, right? That's for human purposes and procreation. It's not required on the other side, right? So I think that, we all are, as light beings, quite amazing when, us little pipsqueaks as humans, when we see, the magnificent light beings that we are on the other
Wow.
side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Are you able to describe what you were? Is it something similar to that, or can you even
Yeah.
describe it?
Well, I would say that I would be, it was between a light beam and a very strong fire that was burning. That was
Okay.
like almost what I was made of,
Like
was
the burning
fire.
bush, right? The old
Yeah,
Moses.
like the
Okay.
fire. But you see, everything was my distortion. Like, you could see that I had a body and stuff like that, but I was on a horse actually, and I had a huge sword. And they said, you were in the war, right? And that's why and so that's why I thought I was crazy. I was like, oh, oh my God, they're passing through me now. They're like, keep going, tell them. I'm like, I don't want to tell them. It sounds crazy. And then they'll be like, oh, well, it was good. And then she told us this. And then we were like, woo, woo,
But
right?
someone else saw you in a suit of armor, right? So that,
I got home and I read on my Discord, the person had direct messaged me,
right.
and she is somebody who has abilities. She taught, actually, you were on a chat we had on the Discord voice channel, and she was
Yeah.
on there, and we were
Yeah.
talking about some of the scary things that happened to her when she was younger
Hmm.
because she could see things, right? But
Yeah.
she asked me if I was a warrior. She said, "Were you a warrior, like in heaven on the others? Like, were you someone who guards the gates or like something like that? Like everyone has different roles on the other side." And I had just, when I was walking home, I had just saw that. And then I think the people on the other side did that because, again, you guys can be like sort of my steady confirmation.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, it's just like when I do readings with people, I tell them stuff that there was no way for me to have known it. But also timing wise, they'll say stuff like, I was just thinking about that
Yeah.
before the reading, or I was just talking about that with my spouse the night before that. And it's a very particular subject. So, like I said, the people on the other side, they use confirmations. There's no reason why we levitate stuff or whatever. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
That doesn't fit in with the 3D realm. That just makes you a weirdo. Like, put that down. Stop showing off, right? You don't need to do that here. It's the 3D. We're not supposed to do that, right? But they'll do these other sorts of things to confirm that you're on the right track.
Yeah. And it happens a lot with you answering questions before we even bring up the topic, and it happens so regular now we just take it for granted.
You're like, Matt.
But anyway, that's really cool. So within the book of Revelations, then, these were sort of these prophecies in general. And the thing with some of these vague prophecies, just like when we talked about Nostradamus, is you could read them and almost interpret them to modern times, which is kind of scary when I actually look through some of these. But then you can also apply them to the time, the age that they were written in. So, Sam, do you think that the commentary on Revelations has it right when they say that this was really kind of for the early Catholic Church while it was being persecuted to inspire them? And were the predictions for that time frame, or do you think any of the prophecies and revelations extend into modern times, like where we're at now?
Oh, I do think that they
Okay.
extend in modern times. There is a line there, something about having the hair like a woman and shaped like a grasshopper with the faces of men in them. And they,
Hmm.
and they terrorize people day and night. Well, that sounds to me like attack helicopters.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I'll have to see if we can find that if I can search the
Yeah.
chapters.
Yeah, hair
Yeah.
like women, faces like men. It's in Revelations.
Okay.
Grasshopper. Yeah, if you probably search the word grasshopper, because
Yeah.
they use that descriptive word. I remember that was the people on the other side just sort of showed me that.
Okay.
They were like, bring that one up. Because
Okay.
that's how they answer the question. It's like, here's an example of some very obvious future technology that's only existed the last 100 years. So less than that.
Hair like. See if I can find the verse. Revelations 9:8. So 9 verse 8. The appearance of locusts was like that of horses ready for battle. On their heads they wore what looked like crowns of gold. Their faces were like human faces, and they had hair like women's hair. Their teeth were like lions' teeth, and they had chests like iron breastplates. The sound of their wings was like the sound of many horse-drawn chariots racing into battle. They had tails like scorpions with stingers, and their tails had the power to harm people for 5 months. Um, wow. Yeah, it does sound like a helicopter. Interesting.
Yeah. So it just talks about like these are the things that we're going to see, that we're going to go through.
Okay.
Because the people on the other side, they told me a long time ago that I was going to be alive when these things and revelations happened. And that made me
Oh, okay.
afraid. At first, I was afraid, but then I was not. And then they showed me, I was like, okay, I'm not afraid then.
Yeah, because it is, I mean, pretty, scary, I guess, the way they give some of these images. But let's talk about a couple of the things within there. I mean, God, we could probably spend an hour talking about this,
Oh,
but we
yeah.
don't have that much time. But one of the big things that people always refer to in Revelations is the mark of the beast, and
Mm.
the people in the commentary say that the beast symbolizes sort of that final empire, or maybe the Roman Empire that was coming out to persecute Jesus. But they also talk about the mark of the beast, and I like to understand and see if maybe the people on the side can show us if you can see what the mark of the beast refers to. And what it says, it starts in Revelations 13, verse 16. It says, forced all the people, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to be given a stamped image on their right hands or their foreheads, so that no one could buy or sell except one who had the stamped image of the beast's name or the number that stood for its name. So, can you see what that might be referring to,
Yeah.
Sam?
Oh, yeah. That's just talking about digital currencies, right? But people will have them, like they'll even be able to put it in their hand so that
Okay.
then they can just, or you can have it scanned, right? Oh,
Yeah.
here. No, this is my forehead. Oh, scanned. But the thing is that they misinterpret it, just like I can make a mistake in my translations. They
Okay.
make it out like a thing that's to put people in slavery, but they misunderstood, right? What happens is that digital currencies do rise and you can't buy or sell without using your digital currencies. But some countries will use that for bad because they'll be controlling their citizens,
Yeah.
right? So they're talking about the mark of the beast. So they're talking about the people who are under this type of evil, empire power. It's not
Okay.
going to be us in North America, right? But I know there's going to be a place it's going to happen where it'll get to the point that you can't buy or sell. You can't like survive unless you are being tracked by this digital currency. So anyone trying to hold out and hide how they're buying and selling and what have you, it's not going to work out for them, right? But the thing is that the only place that's going to hurt you is if you're in kind of the bad empire anyways, right? If you're
Right.
not in the bad empire, then it's just, God, thank God you don't got to carry all these different cards around with you. And, it's just easier, right? Because your government isn't going to use the information to control you and enslave you. But
Okay.
other countries can do that. They will use it to control you and enslave you. So it really depends on, where you're at.
So the ultimate traceable economy that there
Yeah.
is no ultimate transparency. Okay. Interesting, Sam. The next thing I want to talk about is the six or the seven seals. This number seven is used throughout. I know within biblical scholars, the number. There's all these symbolic numbers they use, but just in general, the six seals and the four horsemen of the apocalypse that they talk about. So what happens is they break these seals open on these scrolls, and then these visions appear of these riders on a horse. So I'll talk about the first four, Sam. Basically, in summary, the first rider was a white horse, was like a conquering power. The red horse was supposed to be a symbol of bloody war. The third black horse was kind of like a symbol of famine, and the fourth, oh, sorry, family just came home. The pale green horse is a symbol of death itself, and then like really the fifth and sixth seals are kind of like the Christians being sacrificed, and then more apocalyptic signs that are revealed. Sam, do you see any significance to these four horsemen? They're really hard to interpret because you always go off of what somebody else wrote, but what do you see about what do these four horsemen represent?
Oh, the typical things that come with an apocalyptic state, which would be, war and starvation. What are the four horses? There's war and
Yeah,
starvation. Those are the easy ones. What's the
yeah,
other two?
famine and then death. So it's what white is conquering. So like I guess you're conquered. Then the second horse is the red, the bloody war. Third horse is famine, and then the green horse, the pale green horse, is death himself.
Yeah. Yeah. So these are just all the things. But what I see coming for us during this time is that the bad time is going to be shrunk down to about a 4-year period.
Okay.
And we're not going to go through the dark ages. We're going to go right into the Renaissance. So
Okay.
that's how blockchain and digital currencies are going to save us.
Okay.
Because again, you're going to have sort of the evil empire trying to control people and stuff. But, the brain drain, all the smart people, all the people who run blockchain who can control things and stuff. Because what happens is when you get a bunch of really smart people together and they all go and they hack the services of that particular government. Like they don't give them any peace.
Right.
Right. It's
Right.
just like if you don't have the smart people on your side, you just can't win.
Yeah. Yeah. The other one, I'm trying to look up the verse right now, but so after they break the seals, they basically reveal then some horns are played. When they break the seventh seal, then these horns start to trumpet, and then these natural
Mhm.
disasters happen.
Yeah.
And they refer to like something in there called wormwood, and I think it's a meteor or something comes down and kind of poisons the water. And every now and then you'll hear things about the wormwood being either a dark star or something. But Sam, what do
Yes.
you think this wormwood refers to?
That's the asteroid impact that I was talking about that's coming in this decade.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, it says it does bitter. It makes the water bitter in some regions. So that'll
Yeah.
be, which actually, if it crashed in the ocean, polluted some seawater, the inland lakes, that could be an issue.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Kills a lot of the fish. And again, mankind is forced to, and hopefully people will listen to my message if I get enough of really,
Yeah.
badass predictions on video. I mean, really, when you think about it, I don't know of anybody who's done this type of grand experiment, because
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who, first of all, who would have the guts. I
And
don't
been
know
doing.
anyone.
We're
Yeah.
almost on year 3 of this, right? And putting it all
Yeah.
out there on the internet. It's yeah. Some people last for a year or two, but they don't have this much content for sure.
Right, right. No, exactly. And they're maybe not that good and stuff. But the thing is, you have to understand that I was compelled. Like,
Okay.
I had no choice. And I was like, okay, you know what? Whatever all these people can do is nothing compared to the one that I serve, what Source can
Right.
do. So, you know what? I'm just going to do it, because I tried to get away. I go splitting on. Oh, no, you're doing it. I'm like, ah. And then the price just kept getting higher and higher. And I was like, all right, I know what I got to do here. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that I can have enough like crazy stuff that I'm able to predict, that I'll just say to people, look, I'm going to be straight up with you. First time in human history that more people have been getting Fs than at their end of life reviews than well done, good and faithful servant.
Yeah.
On you go, right? There's more people getting like, oh, no bueno, back of the line for you. So that's number one. Number two is that we have some really crazy stuff headed to planet Earth that is going to be very destructive to us as humans, like humankind, but we are going to survive it. But we need to pull together. This current situation, this is not going to be very beneficial to us when the asteroid strikes. So we need to get our crap in order like now. So
Okay.
this is like looking at the timing. We'll like literally be coming out of the whole financial thing, the uproar, all the stuff, and then things will just start, and then that asteroid strike will happen, and then
Okay.
even many more years later, then the aliens arrive, and I don't even want to talk about that right now because you just sound crazy. I'll wait until that video footage of the alien like walking outside their ship comes out. I'll be like, see, I told you they're coming. That's one of the scientists. That's not one of the warlords. The warlords are on their way though.
Yeah, then people will be trying to hunt you down for sure and
Yeah.
find out more.
Mm.
Last thing on the Revelations before we go into questions is, then reaping and Judgment Day, and they talk about this reaping of the souls and, kind of this final judgment that happens. And, most people interpret this as the end of the world, and you're going to be judged for all your deeds, and the world just kind of ends. What do you see, Sam, as really this final judgment they're referring to in Revelations?
Well, I mean, this is very much has a religious type of
Yeah.
curve to it. And I feel like there will be a reveal to mankind where it becomes very clear that you were on the wrong side of things,
Okay. So
right?
really a
People,
time for justice that comes out and reveals all the wrongdoings.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we go into, like I said, the Great Renaissance, so that we don't have the Dark Ages like they had a long time ago. They would have the Dark Ages and then the Renaissance, but the Dark Ages lasted, I mean, God, how long did the Ages
Yeah.
last? Like 400 years,
Yeah.
hundreds of years. So we don't have that coming to us, which is thankfully, you see the markets, like it's almost like you're in a time warp, and that's going to be the same as like with the Great Renaissance. Again, we'll see that in our lifetime. Like, and I
Okay.
even heard that remember we talked about a cure for Alzheimer's?
Yeah. Yeah.
They just finished trials, and it's looking good. There might be a cure for Alzheimer's.
Wow. All
Yeah.
right. Another.
Crazy, huh? And I was like thinking about MS. I was like, the people on the other side told me that there would be a cure for MS, treatments for MS, like really earth-shattering news. And so I think about that as well, because I think a few Sam Jammers, either they have MS or their spouse has MS, because it's very common. That's one of the most common, like, neurological, or what do they call it? Autoimmune.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, all the stuff you said, eventually it's going to be fun when it's really starts popping up in the news and where you have all these flashbacks. So, all right. Well, Sam, I was going to talk a little bit about pyramids, but we're here towards the bottom of the hour. So we'll move straight to questions and I'll save my pyramid stuff. Lost Shaker wants to talk more about the Great Awakening and kind of how and compare some of the ones that have in the past. So we're going to try to develop a topic. I put a note to him. Maybe if I need a guest host over Christmas, we'll see if if he's willing to do that. But
Yeah.
that's another topic we are going to explore here in the future. So, all right, well, let's jump into questions. And the first one comes from Cowboy Coder. Hi, Sam and Rudy. Can you comment on the concept of returning to personal sovereignty, i.e., empowering yourself to reach your highest potential, and how cryptos play a vital role in this regard, as well as humanity's larger evolution? Thanks for all the great value to you both. You both add to these alternative topics.
That's a great question. And Cowboy Coder had the very top 12 votes. So no wonder. That's such a great question. And empowering yourself to reach your highest potential. Listen, a really big part of that, and I would say probably number one on the list, is just hitting the eject button on people in your life that are not, and you know who they are. Just because somebody's family, or just because, oh, we've been friends for 30 years, it doesn't matter if they are a minus and not a plus. And listen, people go through hard times and stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. We should be there for our friends and our family when they're going through hard times, if they are one of our, again, inner circle people. But there's some people you guys have in your inner circle that you need to get them out, right? And now with cryptos, it becomes, I won't say life and death, but you have an opportunity to, because a lot of people have responsibilities, or they they're like, well, I have to do this because nobody else will take care of my parents. And it's like, oh, you got cryptos now, you can put them in a really, you can have somebody come over every
Yeah.
week, like every day, and help them out. Now you don't have to, just because your mother screams at you, your dad tells you what a terrible person you are, this is really beating your soul down, but you don't want them on the streets, right? Because your parents just have problems. I'm using this as an example. So your crypto wealth will allow you to take that money to support them, so they're not someone else's problem. I mean, if you're their kid, then they should more be your problem than some stranger, right?
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. I mean, I'm not going to foist my elderly parent onto the population. It's our responsibility as the children to make sure that our elderly parent or parent who's still alive is fed and cared for and receives their medication, etc. You don't have to give them everything they want. It's just like, too bad you didn't save for it, so it's no longer your choice. If you cared, you would have saved for it. You didn't. It's a townhouse. You're not getting a single dwelling home. I'm sorry, I can't afford it. Or it's a trailer. You're not getting in the posh neighborhood. I have a really nice trailer park that's 55 plus, and the rent is only $800 a month, and the pad fees are $350, and I think that's within my budget. And then we can also have somebody come over every second day and clean the house and make some meals and put some in the fridge for the next day. That sort of stuff. That's what cryptos is going to do for you, and then you can hightail it away from those negative people.
Yeah, for sure. And it also made me think of Jordan Peterson for those people that don't have cryptos. And you've mentioned within the Great Awakening, he's really that philosopher. And a lot of people are drawn because of that tough love message of take responsibility for yourself. So, good question. Next, we come from Super Grammy. In the USA, the government has been paying farmers to destroy their crops. If they don't, they will lose government subsidies. Sam stated that the people will starve and there will be hyperinflation. Seems counterproductive to destroy a food source. What's going on? Why would they do this? Will my family fare this okay? Um, yeah, I think Michelle also commented she's planning to, grow some of her own food to kind of offset that. Sam, what do you think about this? This is normal government subsidies they do to kind of keep the price action where it needs to be. Do you think this will really start to impact food supplies?
I don't think so. Other than what would have normally happened.
Okay.
And the thing is that sometimes people will have to destroy crops, or the same reason that they would have to slaughter some of their cattle, their beef cattle, because they can't feed them, for example. And, sometimes people have to let perfectly good produce rot in the field because they don't have anybody to pick it. And sometimes these disaster people who are on YouTube, and that's how they make a living off of scaring you. Like that's actually how they make a living. They don't give a crap about you. They don't care about your peace of mind or anything like that. That's what and they actually get off on it. And they love the comments from the terrified people or the I knew it was like this. They love it. They get off on it. They love your pain. Right. They don't realize it, but they do. That's why they keep doing it. And then they get a nice paycheck too. They maybe go to their job every day, but they make like an extra $1,200, $1,500 a month off of this like terrible clickbait stuff where, oh yeah, and they have to do starvation for everybody. And it's like, you know what? In reality, that farmer's not destroying it other than the fact that they have no one to pick it out of the field. Like it's obvious stuff like that. And it's things that have gone on for hundreds of years. I mean, this stuff happens. I mean, in the 1930s, you didn't run into that because you had people who just actually went in little caravans and showed up at farms so that they could get paid, and by removing, by picking stuff, on the farms where that hadn't been destroyed by the Dust Bowls.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I like Michelle's suggestion. Listen, if you are worried about this, just make sure that you have a little garden on the side, and there's nothing wrong with getting some, canned goods and things like that and setting them aside, and make sure that you have a couple of weeks worth of food in your pantry.
Yep, good practice. All right, thanks, Sam. Next one comes from AG. Would love to hear your thoughts about how we can prepare for what's coming to the UK this winter. Should we be storing food, fuel? Are we going to see power outages? I have young family and want to do what I can to keep them safe. Thanks.
So yes, good idea. You're going to need food. You're going to need fuel. Yes, there's going to be power outages, so you're going to need some sort of different power source. There's like these gel bottles. I don't know what they're called, like ethanol, something like that, where you can just put them in the fireplace, and then you can burn it, and it'll just keep going for hours and hours.
Use them to heat food. I forget the sterno cubes, but yeah, it's like a gel that just that burns. Yep.
Yeah, we had that in our fireplace that I'm actually getting. I took the insert because we had to own that ourselves at the apartment we were in. So I took that to my house, and I'm actually going to get a little fireplace thing built in the wall, and then I can put that insert in, because I always think about heat alternatives, and because we need propane for I used to have propane and oil, but now our furnace is also propane. And so is our fireplaces that turn on without they run a battery. That's the other thing too, is get those fireplaces where you hook up your propane, but you don't start. They're not electric start. They're ones that start with the battery. That's the other thing too. So keep in mind these things. Like, you're not going to have electricity. Don't get something that you start it with an electric.
Yeah, or your furnace can't work because you don't have a blower. But like, kerosene lanterns, my grandfather used to have those, and boy, they throw off a lot of heat, and they're bright. So that kind of go antique shopping.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's lots of stuff you can do there. And with food and fuel, I mean, you can get some canned peaches. Like, remember, don't just get, flour and powdered milk and things like that. Like, you can get fruits and vegetables canned.
Yeah.
Right. I wouldn't go for the frozen vegetables. I know that you like the quality of them better than the canned ones, but remember, if you're losing power, then anything that you have in your fridge is going to go kaput. I have canned milk, things like that. And, you never know when this is going to come in handy, because before we talked about the BC landslides, it's actually cut off people in certain communities. And my sister I have a few sisters who live out there, but one of my sisters told me that the grocery store is completely picked over. There's nothing on the shelves in the grocery stores. Everybody's panicking, right? Now, she said her and her boyfriend are preppers, so she says, we always have lots of food, so we're not worried, right?
You can only eat so much chili, though. That's how I prep. But anyway, so Matt Zelenko has an interesting question here, and this is actually kind of what we were talking about earlier, Sam. He says, Dear Stan, percentage-wise, what ratio of your spoken content is a spontaneous blab, i.e., coming unfiltered from the other side? And what are your own thoughts, untainted by the spirit's breeze? How do we, the listeners, tell which one we are listening to at any given moment? Thank you, guys. And that's good because I would add to this, Sam, because I've thought about this before too. Is you've mentioned before you get a picture, but the picture's from your life, and you have to relate that. So you're not going to tell us, okay, I see me in a little car. If I've asked you, a question, right? You filter that stuff out. So, but good question. How do you kind of balance that, and how do we know when you're? I think we know when you're in the flow sometimes, but are there
Yes.
signs that you have?
Oh, well, you can see that I'm not one of the things that they noticed when they were doing yes, this is green, this is 100% a Sam hit, and oh, this is a red, like a definite miss, right? And you can tell I'm very non-committal. I'm like, oh well, I don't know, we'll see. Oh, I'm really unsure. And that's when it's like I just don't have the answer, but I'm not sure if I don't have the answer. I'm like, oh, I'm pretty sure. Oh no, that's just my own private thought. Okay. That's just me inserting my idea to it because it does have a different
Yeah.
feeling. And so I'll stop myself because I'll be like, no, I know that now. Oh, shame, you know, fool me twice, shame on me, right? Fool me
Yeah.
once, fool me twice, shame on me, right? So it's like now with this grand experiment, I am starting to feel that. And I don't know if you can get stuff unfiltered from the other side. Probably the messages that I get when I'm not live, but that I bring up with you guys and say, the people on the other side wanted you to know that we're not going to suffer through the dark ages,
Yeah.
right? It's just going to be a couple of years. And I think this is important for people to know because some people are just really going to get slammed, like where they live. And they need to know, like, this is not the way that it's going to be on
Okay.
end. This is just a hard time you got to get through, but everything's going to turn out okay.
Okay. So interesting. That's good to know. When you're non-committal and you're just kind of talking. All right, good. We'll add that to our notes. Michelle asks, "Hi Sam and Rudy. I feel a lot of people are losing their minds, easily triggered, random violent acts, etc. Is this because things are bad, economy shut down, inflation, media polarizing people, etc., or is it something else going on, like dark entities or energy change within the planet? Any advice to keep yourself sane and spiritually in a good place? I think we are all going to need this with tough times and changes in the near future. Thanks, Michelle."
Oh, it's definitely the dark entities. They are winning the battle right now of darkness. Darkness is coming over the planet, and it's part of the Great Awakening, right? Because they know their time is coming near an end. So it's just like, the very last battle, it's going to be like the most fierce because they know this is going to be it. If they don't win and they don't take down humanity, because that's their goal. Their goal is to take down humanity. They don't like what I'm doing. They don't like what you're doing. They
Yeah.
don't like what a lot of the Sam Jammers are doing or going to be doing. And so they're going to try to, throw it. And and I'm not one of those people like, oh, the devil made me do it or blaming it on, oh, is it dark entities? Listen, sometimes it's just your own stupid fault and bad choices that you make, right? But other times it's, and the thing is that they can't do anything to us, but they can make us do things to each other.
Yeah.
And one of the things that, again, when I get people's attention, I'm going to talk about some of the things that we do as a society and that we give sort of our stamp of approval to. So a lot of people gave their stamp of approval to the shutdown. And I was like, yeah, but you know what? You didn't suffer. You still had your job. You just turned a blind eye to somebody who literally was put in starvation mode. Like they literally had to go begging to their family in order to survive. But you didn't because you had a government job and you were still getting your $7,000 a month for doing a whole lot of nothing. You're one of those micromanager peoples in the health department and you can just, oh, you're just going to do it online, right? But you turned a blind eye. And I'm telling you right now, God's going to get even. It's coming. Look out. We are going to get our pampered asses kicked. And it's going to become very clear to people, yeah, we shouldn't have done that. We really turned a blind eye. All that happened when we print money is that the gas prices went up. And guess what? Guess who gas prices hurt? The poor people the most, right? The
Mm-hmm.
working poor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm annoyed. I don't want to get off too hard on that. I just want to say that um, it is a lot to do with the dark end. But what they did is they utilized the criminals and bandits in our society who took over the stupid people, right? Like you have to remember, like there's intelligent people, and that's where everybody's a win-win. I like to think that I'm an intelligent person, and I shared my crypto knowledge with people, and talked about don't FOMO in, wait for the pullback, right? Just
Yeah.
a lot of common sense stuff, and I won and you won, right? We all won together. We all win together, and that's what I love about it. But there are criminals and bandits who they take advantage of helpless people, and they take advantage of stupid people, right? And stupid people, like helpless people, are people who are used. So so somebody may take advantage of a helpless person. The helpless person loses, but they win. So it's not but see, stupid people, they do stuff and they lose and you lose, right? That would be like that lady who walked up to my son where my dog was tied up. And then she, and the dog's like on its hind with like straining, trying to get to her, right? And she walks up because she's, Bronx is still a puppy and she can be crazy. Like you guys hear her barking at me sometimes. She's looking for attention and, just very demanding. Well, she's really high strung when my son's like jumping around with her and he doesn't get hurt or anything, but strangers, right? If they panic and they try to get away from her because she grabbed onto her, right? Well, that was really stupid. She's a stupid person. She didn't say, oh, I'm going to walk over here and do this and then write a report that could potentially have this little boy's dog taken from him and put to death. Right.
Yeah.
She wasn't thinking that. She was thinking, oh, even though this dog is fully extended, I'm going to go over and say hello.
Well, it's all those little things where someone like are people influenced maybe to do something they might normally do that kind of has this cascading effect, like you talked about with your issue, and then somebody does something else that has a knock-on effect, and they're just those little influences that these entities try to do to cause cause trouble.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. And I totally like say, okay, well, I know what's going on here where, my son sees dead people and he's probably going to potentially be a very powerful medium in the future. I feel like he will know more than even I know. And the great thing about it is because he'll get training early on in his abilities, right? Whereas I didn't have training when I was like 12, 13 and able to have conversations with whatever I wanted to have conversations with. So, but between, now and that time, I'm sure that we're going to have a lot of people, like I said, for no reason at all, just like that woman who threatened to kill me just because I told her that I didn't believe that this pandemic was, that it was as big a deal, like to worry about, that we had as much to worry about as they were. I said the odds of, if you get it, the odds of you dying are pretty small, right? Like it's, and then that's when she told me that if I gave her COVID, that she would come to my house and that she would have a gun. And she was very specific. And then I got her to repeat it just to make sure that, she meant what she said. But like I said, it's just insane. I mean, it's total and complete insanity that people who are, you would look at them and think that they're normal. They're saying and doing things that are not normal at all. And I looked at it and I had told you guys about it, that these sort of things would happen to us and that it was because of our abilities and that people who have PTSD, like they'll just outright attack you. And it's just getting to the end times like that, where it's such a war. It's so out in the open now. I can see it. I'm like, oh my God, this is so out in the open.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Our next question comes from Mixed ASIC. In what ways are beings or spirits from the other side attracted to us? How do we gather and retrain a crowd of good spirits to help us in our life's journey? Can we direct them to help family or friends who need extra attention?
Yeah, well, absolutely, you can. It's all just done through prayer. I mean, we have a healing room, and that's where people, they focus on and send their intentions to that person. And when you have enough people doing that, I do believe that there is a cause and effect to that. How do you gather and retain a crowd of good spirits? Well, that all depends on what you feed your mind with. So are you positive, happy, easygoing? And I mean, I'm not talking about being a pushover, right? I'm definitely, like you guys know, I'm definitely not a pushover, but I am somebody who I'm typically in a good mood. I'm, happy-go-lucky. I got a smile on my face whenever I'm, walking down. I mean, I'm in my brain. I'm entertaining myself. That's why I'm having a smile on my face, right? But I'm thinking good things.
Yeah.
Right. And that's how I noticed like this dun dun dun, this like darken, and they try to get in and they're like blah blah blah. But then this, and then what if that happens? And I'm like, oh, come on, please.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. And the other thing is invite them around. Like, I know people that have crossed over, family, friends, and I think about them, and you kind of, like Sam says, pray, talk to them in your mind, and you will feel them come around. It's kind of neat how that works. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And then and sometimes like I ask my dad for help. I'm like, Dad, they won't leave me alone. Can you I know you and Alphage are over there. You're dancing with the girls. Okay. All right. But can you head over here for a bit and just knock them out for me? These
Yeah.
dark things. They're harassing me. So yeah, I've called on my dad a few times. And then even my Nana. I was like, Nana.
I need him to
You
scare
want
up
me?
some deer for when I go hunting next time. That's what I'm
Okay.
hoping for.
All right.
All right. Kid Totoro says, interested to know your blabs on Singapore and Taiwan. Why do you think these two countries will be surviving and doing well in the next years to come compared to their Southeast Asian counterparts, Philippines and Japan? I've always been cautious about those two given their loose ties with China. What do you see that makes Singapore and Taiwan stand out that even crypto investors will find a safe haven there?
Well, I think that the Philippines and Japan are like geographically in trouble. So I think that there's some geographical stuff going on there, like with flooding, earthquakes. Like I think Philippines, it's like flooding, and Japan, and just the economies and just the way things are being run there. It's not good at all. Whereas Singapore and Taiwan, they seem to be sort of in the right place at the right time as far as that goes. I don't see anything coming their way that's going to wipe them out as far as geographical, volcanoes or, like I don't feel good about Indonesia, but, I do, but, I want to know, but people are like, well, don't just tell me like what places are falling apart. Like, tell me where I can go. It's like, okay, well, Singapore and Taiwan. And somebody asked me quite a bit about Taiwan, and, I've never been there. I don't know much about it at all. I have no idea about it in reality. If I had to choose between Taiwan or Singapore, hands down, I would pick Singapore. But they want to know, is Taiwan going to survive? And I'm like, yep, I see that it's going to be okay. But if I had to live in Singapore or Taiwan, I would choose Singapore.
Okay. Yeah, and they're also economic powerhouses for the region too. I mean, really, you need. I don't think they would let those fail to
No.
some degree. So, Caitlin writes, "Hi Sam and Rudy. Do you see Daniel Andrews, the Premier of Victoria, Australia, resigning or being fired soon? He is currently under investigation for treason. He is also trying to pass the most terrifying and draconian bill through our Parliament, which will see." Even more of our liberties stripped away, and people like me who speak out about the truth of the pandemic face jail time. Do you see this bill passing through Parliament? Thanks.
Okay, so I do not see this bill passing through Parliament. And just due to the laws of the land, I cannot, as a medium, tell you what I see happening to Daniel Andrews.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of these crazy bills that always show up
Yeah.
and just
Yeah. But
stir up
people
fear.
will know what I was talking about when Daniel, they'll be like, oh my God, but she wouldn't say. It's like, yeah, you're right. I saw it and I'm not saying.
Okay. All right, good. Bradley J writes, "Hello, Sam and Rudy. There are theories and studies that state that dinosaurs cannot support their weight. Was Earth's gravity different during the Triassic period, Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous periods?" Yeah, and I've heard. I think Cliff Ty has mentioned this. Animals like their heartbeat. Can you pump enough blood up that high? What do you think, Sam? Was gravity different way back then?
No, and everything's relative. I mean, if you upsized yourself and everything was within, you like, for example, I think the problem that, some of the people who are like really, really big people is that they don't have hearts big enough. Like their
Oh,
heart
okay.
is not it doesn't get to the size that it needs to get to accommodate
Hmm.
their size. But, obviously the dinosaurs were born with, hearts and livers and, everything was upsized accordingly. And I think that it's just a theory.
Okay.
And it's just one that I am just saying no. I like that question, Bradley. I was a big dinosaur fan when I was in grade 2, and I knew everything about dinosaurs. I obsessed on dinosaurs for probably about 2 years, from grade 2 to 4, and I hear about different theories and things like that about dinosaurs, and I'm always interested as an adult to know what the people on the other side have to say about it. So thanks for that great question, Bradley.
Okay. All right. Next question from Pauline Maxwell. I think you're in the UK, Pauline. Hi, Sam and Rudy. I've seen news clips about the CCP, China, telling all their citizens to stock up on food and water. They are going to war with Taiwan. They are under a big freeze and snow conditions, and will lock down the people if they, like they did in Wuhan again. If they are doing a bad job governing, they take the people to war as a distraction. What are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, well, I totally saw that that was what they were up to with their threats against Taiwan and the things that they were saying about America. Like they say like very negative things about Americans and America, and talk about how you guys are like such a big threat and stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm their neighbor. They're not a threat at all. You guys are ridiculous, right?
It's
They are.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff's always going to be in the news, and you can keep people riled up. I remember when I
Yeah.
lived there in college. There was U.S. has approved some sale of some F-16s to Taiwan, and the man on the street is, you'd be there at the noodle stand, and they'd ask you about that. So that stuff is always out there. I think they keep just like our government too. They keep you riled up.
Yeah, yeah, and they are using it as a cover up, but you know what? Their problems are just gonna just keep ballooning. It's gonna mushroom. I would not want to be somebody in the CPP right now,
Yeah.
trying to like even someone that I know here that is trying to bring their husband over, and they weren't sure if he was coming or not, and I was like, make sure that he comes because it's going to get crazy over
Yeah.
there pretty soon. And you don't want to have anyone that, your child belongs to. You don't want, them worried about their father and stuff. So get them over if you can. I mean, I see it breaking up into 4 countries, and that's not going to be an easy process. I mean,
Yeah.
look at the reshaping. We'll see the reshaping of the maps in the Middle East over the next 10 years.
Mhm.
There's going to be different claims being made and stuff, and nobody's going to be able to do a thing about it.
Yeah. Chris writes, "Hi Sam. The Belgian government is contemplating forcing vaccination on everyone. You mentioned that protests against vaccination mandating would be in Europe first, in Italy, and that some people in government would be targeted. When do you see this happening in Belgium? Thank you."
I think it'll happen in like over the winter time, because I think that there's going to be so many social and economic problems. And then remember too that once they can't get money, like they lose liquidity, then they can't send out the checks anymore. Like they can't buy once the governments can't buy off people anymore,
Yeah.
then there's going to be a lot of unrest and stuff. And it is definitely coming for Belgium is one of the places that's in the epicenter. Belgium, France, Germany,
Wonder if they'll use
Holland.
that as a final control. No check unless you're vaxxed, right? Who knows what they'll cook up. All
Yeah.
right. Next question comes from Fire Dragon. Hi guys, dear Sam, could you speak more on what you see coming for us being able to spend in crypto rather than withdrawing? I.e., MasterCard just launched a credit card that you can spend crypto with in Asia. Thank you, much love, Fire Dragon.
Oh yeah, there's going to be a whole bunch of that going on. I mean, crypto is just becoming mainstream. You saw that the LA Staples Center is going to be crypto.com,
Yeah,
right? So it's just that's as mainstream as you can get. I feel like over the next 12 months, you guys will say, yeah, we don't really need Sam to convince us anymore that cryptos are not going out of business. It's
okay.
more of what should we buy? Is this metaverse thing? Is NFTs? And is this gonna, it's like, oh yeah, guys, it's gonna be huge, but it's so like hit and miss. That would be quite the feather in my cap if I'm able to pick the ones that do like extremely well on that end as well. So we'll have some fun with that. But I think the next 12 months, you guys are finally going to feel that cryptos are
Okay.
not going to be outlawed. They're not going to be taxed to death. Countries giving you a hard time. They're going to come back. They're going to come on board. You're going to be able to use your cryptos and just spend cryptos. And
Okay.
I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, and I wonder what they'll impose if you start spending cryptos on a credit card, if they'll impose some sort of reporting requirements, at least here in the States and the IRS, but we'll see how that. But KC has a question on that same thread, which is, hi, Sam and Rudy. It seems like Portugal is running a campaign for not taxing on crypto and inviting foreigners to immigrate. What do you see in Portugal's future? Is that a good option to move and live there in the future? Thank you.
Yeah, I just wouldn't move like right into Lisbon because when they have like the unrest in Europe, I do feel like the larger center in Portugal because Portugal's in trouble financially as well. It's just because they are a smaller country and they're going to attract so many crypto millionaires to live there. I mean, they have nice weather too, especially down in the Algarve, that they will attract, crypto millionaires to live
Okay.
there and that will improve their economy. Plus you have, all these movers and shakers moving there. So that will bring to fruition a prediction that I had in early 2019 that all of these countries in financial trouble would be, come hither to the crypto
Yeah.
millionaires, right, and billionaires. And as the next year goes forward, like as we cross 3 trillion to 4 trillion to 6 trillion, there's just going to be more and more crypto millionaires. I mean, if you have like mid six figures right now, some people only had 50 to 70,000 last year,
Mhm.
and now they got 700,000 to 800,000. I mean, where do you think you're going to be next year, right?
Yeah.
And then you're going to be, okay, I'm not leaving, I'm not staying in this country, I'm leaving, right? Because I'm staking and baking and I don't want to pay all those taxes. So anyways, yeah, I think that there's going to be a lot of countries coming on board. You just wait until by next year, like 2022. Oh yeah, there's probably going to be like 10, 15, 20 like reasonable countries, because who cares if the
Okay.
Sudan says pick me or
Yeah.
South Africa? I'll be like you guys need to fix stuff before I go to any of those places. But like good countries like Portugal or like nice weather countries. And yeah.
Well, and especially like, the US, I don't know, I haven't read the infrastructure bill, but I heard somebody saying like maybe possibly 25, they were going to pay for some of this, but then, taxes on cryptos and upping capital gains at 25%. So hopefully that stuff kind of falls by the wayside and we're more reasonable here. If not, I'll be moving. Hi, Sam and Rudy. Is cloning technology more advanced than the public is let on? I've heard scientists working with animals, but don't trust that some interests would hold back from playing with human cloning and using it to their advantage. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. So you'll always get in a lot of trouble for doing that. I don't think that's going to be allowed, mixing humans with animals. I know that's
Chimeras.
probably what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that'll be big problem.
Well, there's always stories. One of the threads I see because I love Dogman and Bigfoot stories, but like the military has engineered these dogmen and played with genetics. And I don't know, Sam. Do you think the U.S. military has any secret genetic testing programs?
No, no, but that's one of the things that the alien scientists are trying to do is they're trying to commingle human DNA with alien DNA. Right, which is not
Ah,
as terrible as trying to make a human and a dog. And no, this is but human and alien
yeah,
that can be done because I think we have the same sort of base as them. I
yeah,
don't know, it's not an algorithm, I forget what you call it. We have the same sort of root as the alien because they have heads, arms, and legs. They have a heart. They just
yeah.
have some different things.
And this was, I think I talked about this a while back. This book by Doc David M. Jacobs, The Threat, and he does regressions with a bunch of people that have been abducted. And like that's kind of the conclusion he comes to is that there's something going on. There's some program where there's a hybrid, and so interesting that you pick up on that, Sam.
Yeah.
All right, a couple questions left, Sam. Rise and shine. Hi, Sam and Rudy. Your top 5 best countries to immigrate to.
Okay. Well, I would say the Western countries that are still good to immigrate to are Canada and the United States. And again, just choose wisely. Like, don't get tangled up in like Washington State or New York State, or just make sure you do your research. And for Canada, I find the coasts. I like British Columbia is good, but more like Vancouver Island.
Yeah.
Or the interior of British Columbia. Alberta's pretty good as well, but it's just, I see some, there's some opportunities there too. So yeah, so Alberta and BC, and then for Canada on the East Coast, not Newfoundland. That's too far up in the, yeah, they're having some really big problems there economically, and
Okay.
they get too much snow. Yeah, but the other places further down where there's still some good property and there's lots of opportunity for growth and stuff. And like I said, in the US, I mean, I would stick with more the southern states and the central, and then, you know, because with California, right, it's too hard for me to pick and choose which places are going to have. It's like not all of California is going to be terrible.
Yeah.
It's just that there's going to be so many places that are going to be terrible that I mean, and I can't tell which is. I can't get that micro in California. I would probably have to live there to say, oh, well, you know, here and here's okay, but don't go to Sacramento.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Sam. Travis writes, "Hi, Sam. I'm sure you've seen all the pictures and videos that have been going around right now of the second son. What are your thoughts on our son having a twin?"
Oh, I must be living under a rock. Is there a second son?
So there's a lot of pictures. I've seen tweets of it, and it's like this dark spot, usually in the morning or certain times of day, that you'll see the sun. And I don't know if it's a planet. I don't think it's a planet, but I haven't been following it that closely. But Sam, do you think there is something, some sort of hidden star or planet in our solar system, or maybe a comet, that is becoming more visible that we haven't seen before and is somehow hidden by the sun? I don't know.
No,
Okay.
I don't. So that's why I was like, second son.
Okay. Yeah, I'd have to look more into it. I mean, my first thought when I see those, Travis, is planet, right? It's one of the
Yeah.
planets that's just visible in the morning, and people, you can talk a lot of conspiracy stuff about it, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. Olya writes, "Hello, Sam. Another question about Australia. Do you have any words about real estate market prospects over here? The housing market has been absolutely bonkers here, especially the last 6 years. Do you have any insight on if it's going to continue or otherwise?"
Well, in Australia, I feel like the government is still going to do all that it can to make sure that the real estate market doesn't go in the toilet. They're going to have a really big issue, though, when they lose control of interest rates. But my biggest concern, of course, is what's going to go on during the Great Depression in Australia. And because of the inflated dollars and stuff, I think that the real estate will sort of still be set at that level because the dollars are still circulating. It's just that it goes like this, but instead of like crashing all the way down, it just kind of corrects a little bit and then it just kind of levels out and just does a
Okay.
normal, oh, it's worth 2% more this year than it was last year. None of these bonkers, oh, my house is now worth double the price I paid for it 5 years ago, right? Which is crazy. I mean, if you bought a $300,000 home and it's now worth 600 and your
Yeah.
mortgage was like 260 or 240 and you paid it down to 200 and you sell it for 600, now you got 400 in your pocket. So, I mean, as long as you don't have to buy in the same place and you're moving away, you're all right. But it becomes very, very difficult to try to maintain this level. So this is not going to continue on with Australia. It's not going to continue
Okay.
its meteoric rise. And especially there may be a little bit of the doldrums set in when the interest rates rise and the Great Depression around the world starts.
And you've also mentioned access to water in Australia is having a major impact on some of the property values. Do you still see drought in some of these major metropolitan areas is an issue on real estate prices?
That and forest fires.
Okay. So that's still on the table.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And our last question of the night from Hodl Queen. You often speak about how a person goes through an end of life review after they pass. At that time, do they know the real story about the true intentions of others and how they may have misunderstood what was really going on in their life? My brother passed a couple of weeks ago due to a very long time string of illnesses. And I just want to know if he would now have a clear picture of who was trying to help him and who was intentionally misleading him.
And that's an example. That's a great question, Hodl Queen. And that is the basis of the end of life review, is that you find out, how you got sucked in by different people, right? Or you see for sure, like for example, anybody who, if you denied to somebody's face, if someone told you, oh, well, I'm glad you had a good experience with that person, but that person actually sexually abused me. Oh, and then they say, oh, right to your face, I don't believe you, you're a liar, right? Well, when they die and they have their end of life review, they'll actually be shown when you were sexually abused, and then how you felt when they looked right in your face and told you that you were a liar.
They'll
right?
feel that too. Yeah.
They're going to feel that too, and you'll be vindicated. Because, and the same thing if you've tried to help somebody and they were mentally ill, but there was somebody else that, because a lot of times, I mean, people who are schemers and liars and, like, I don't hang out with them because they always beat me with experience.
Yeah.
I just listen, I can't scheme, and I'm already at a disadvantage because I won't lie. And some people, they lie so easily. Like, you'll notice, like, if I'm late for a live stream, I don't make up some BS story about I mean, how often have I told you guys the internet wasn't working?
Yeah. All right.
Right. Listen, the times I've told you it wasn't working or that I had to reset, I did have to reset the router. Right. But I mean, like I said, just some people, they just lie just because it's easier for them just to tell a lie, then they're off the hook and stuff. And it's like, one of the things, if you want to challenge yourself to be, I guess, closer to God, that's what people want. How can I be more spiritual? Just don't lie.
Yeah. There you go. All right. Great show tonight, Sam. Appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you in Mood tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out, and have a good rest of the night. Bye for now.
Bye.